Welcome back, my beautiful friends, and if you're new here, hi, welcome. Don't forget to subscribe and tap that bell so you can get a notification of every time I drop something new. So today I'm doing a requested video and I'm going to be showing you how to use different powders. So I've got Fairy Cake, which is a medium to fine glitter mix, Showtime, which is a multi-mix with larger pieces in there, Boom Baby is a lighter coloured acrylic powder, Black Beauty obviously being a darker coloured powder, and your core powders, this time I'm going to be using Ballet Shoes. I'm going to show you the difference of the times when to use the pat press technique and when you should paint it on, and the difference between. So let's get started first on the core powders. So with core powders, you want to be grabbing a nice sized bead and then you want to be draining the back of that bead on a paper towel. Pop it onto the nail, leave it to settle, and as that is settling, go and wipe and clean out your brush. And then in we come again, and we're patting and pressing and gently teasing it down the nail. We don't want to disperse the colour too much because then it will become quite transparent. And that's all we do. Gentle pat pat press, pat pat press. And then when we come in with the second bead, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Clean off my brush into the powder, nice sized bead, drain the back of the bead, and then I'm placing it directly over where the first bead ended. And firstly, going to blend it backwards into the first bead, and then we're back to patting and pressing down the nail. If at any point your brush is starting to stick, it either means it's a very high pigmented powder that you're using, which you will find with your blacks and your reds and things like that, or you have bits of acrylic stuck in your brush and the acrylic on the nail is sticking to that acrylic in your brush. So you need to clean it out better in between. Then we'll come in one last time with a tiny bead at the end and blend that backwards and then down to the end. Now sometimes I do tend to just grab a small bead, quite wet, well yeah, very wet, a wet bead, and I just run it over all of the nail, or in this case all of the nail because it's the same colour everywhere, but wherever that colour is I will then put a small bead to run over the length of that colour. I just feel like it helps it blend better, that's all. Right, let's move on to coloured powders. So when do we paint it on and when do we kind of pat and press a little bit like a core powder? Well, when you have lighter colours, you want to use them a little bit drier. You want to use slightly larger beads than what you would with colours that you would paint on. You don't want to really be draining them out unless it is excessively wet, like there's too much there and it's obvious that it's just going to run everywhere, All I do is pop it at the top, start to pat it out, and then I will drag it down the nail as if it is like paint. So it's kind of in between the consistency of using a very high pigmented colour like red or black and painting it on, which I'll show you in a second. In between that and core powders. You will find it is different though for each light colour that you use. Some light colours you will be able to paint them on. Honestly, generally it's have a go and see what works best for you, really. But this is just a general rule, as I said. Now with your black, and your reds and anything that's got a very high pigment, such as like neons. Neons have a very high pigment. This is where you want to use a very small wet bead and just paint it on as if it was like gel polish. Really, really thin. I mean, look, tiniest bead. I'm not draining it out. I'm not removing any of the liquid from my brush. And look at that. The tiniest, tiniest beads, because it's so pigmented. Right, let's move on to glitters. How do we use them? When is it different? So when we're using the fine, medium mixed, you know, when they're quite small particles, this is what I do. Grab your bead, drain the back of it out a little, and we're patting and pressing and fiddling around. See, it's sticking to my brush here, so that means I have residue in my brush, and that's where it's sticking to. So that's what I do. We'll go clean the brush, and look, no more stickiness. So we want to be using relatively quite small to medium-sized beads, and we do want to drain out any excessive liquid, because we don't want the glitter to be running all over the place, because then you find that there is more clear powder, which is obviously in there what's holding it all together. There's more clear powder in an area than there is glitter. So small beads and drain when you need to. It will become obvious to you the more times you do it. Sorry, my camera's going out of focus there. It likes focusing on the pot, look. Oh, it's beautiful. Beautiful. There we go. Right, so with that second bead, I had quite a bit left over, so I could just trail it down the nail. Now when I'm finishing off, again, just like I do with Corp-Out, well, I kind of do it with every colour, to be honest. I go in and I get a wet bead and I run it over the whole surface just to bring it all together. And as you can see, look from the side, it's nice and thin, and you can cap and all that jazz, you know. Right, let's have a go with a thicker multi-mix. Now these have much larger pieces in there as well as a smaller piece, and I thought it'd be an idea to give you an idea on how to use them properly, easier. So in we go, and we're just grabbing a little bit at a time, a little bit, and you are using the point of your brush, the tip of your brush, to just tease them apart. Tease apart the larger pieces, push them all together, keep your brush wet, don't dry out your brush, because that means that it will start setting up a lot faster than what you need it to do. See how I'm pushing them all with the tip of my brush, pushing them all into place. And then I'm going to go in and go get another bead and pop that on. And again, the same thing. We're just going to tease and drag it all out into place. Now, if you choose to, you can get one big almighty bead, slap it on there, pat and press it like a core, or however you want. But if you want the best effect and be able to see these pieces fully, instead of having like a mass layer of loads of big chunky pieces on top of each other, you know? So if you do it like this, it keeps it nice and thin. There's no like extra bulk being added, because you're literally placing them piece by piece when you're teasing them apart with your brush. And because your brush is wet, it means that it's not going to start to set up because you're constantly adding liquid to it. Now if I turn this to the side as well, you can see how thin that is. See? Super, super thin. And that is how to use your powders. So I hope this video has been some kind of help to you. Please remember, it is a general rule and it doesn't always apply. If there's anything else that I can help you with, please let me know. Thank you always, as always, for joining me. Stay slaying, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!